Welcome to Main Street Ventures Restaurant Group, first installment of the Chef Experience. My name is Brent Corson, the Executive Chef for Main Street Ventures Restaurant Group. And tonight we have a delicious 3-course seafood dinner that we've got prepared for you. I'm going to be leading you through the preparation. So at this point, feel free to pause the video at any point in time, go at your pace, and make sure you have an enjoyable time in the kitchen. So as far as this experience is concerned, we're going to prepare this delicious 3-course menu using just simple at-home equipment. We have in this box here everything that you're going to need, from recipes, cooking instructions, and pre-portion of all these fantastic ingredients. Why don't we get started? So first and foremost, envelope on top here that comes in your packaged box. We have for you some instructions, a packing list. It's color-coded for all of our specific food items here, what they're going to be utilized for. So as we see on the list here, the appetizer items are going to have a blue sticker on them. The entree items will have an orange sticker. The dessert items will have a red sticker. And the common ingredient items will have a green sticker, and those are ones that are going to be utilized in different recipes. We have as well a production timeline to walk you through the safe and careful preparation of these 3 courses. We're going to start off in a different order than you would normally suspect, so we can do our dessert prep so it's ready come dessert time. We also have all these specific recipes. If you want to recreate these recipes in the future, please feel free to do so. Great instructions, and it's all based off of a evening for 2, some great dinner for 2. We have some great pictures as well, so you can follow our plate ups and have a great experience. Right on top here we have some things that we're going to utilize for dessert, our disposable pastry bag and some parchment paper with circles for our pâté choux. We're going to pull out our apron and get started. All right, so the first course that we have prepared for you in this box, we have a delicious chili and lime shrimp appetizer. So we're going to pull out those ingredients that we're going to need. And where's my sauce at? Oh my. There we go. All right. So here we've already prepared for you some beautiful chili and lime marinated shrimp that have been gently sauteed. We have as well prepared for you some nice cucumber and watermelon rounds. We've got some fresh cilantro for garnish. We've got our chili lime dressing and some decorative picks. And this is meant to be a passed or shared hors d'oeuvre that you can have out on the deck on a beautiful summer day. And at this point, it is already ready for us to assemble and enjoy. So the first thing we're going to do is take some of that chili lime vinaigrette that comes to you pre-prepared and just ladle a little bit of this on our decorative service platter. So we're going to take our nice already cooked shrimp, very gently sauteed, skewer that onto our watermelon and cucumber round, add our little sprig of cilantro, and transfer that to the plate. And we will repeat that until we have a nice platter of hors d'oeuvres to be shared. And here we have some beautiful chili lime marinated sauteed shrimp with watermelon, cucumber, and a chili lime vinaigrette. Absolutely perfect for the summertime heat and delicious. All right, so we're going to make a classic paloma here using tequila, our Q grapefruit soda, some freshly squeezed lime juice, and we're going to rim our glass with a little chili lime salt. So first thing we're going to do, going to get our fresh lime juice going. And once again, classic cocktail, perfect for the summertime heat. And the grapefruit in this drink and tequila are going to pair beautifully with that watermelon, cucumber, and chili flavor we've got going on in this appetizer. Squeeze a little bit on our plate so we can get our nice chili salt lime rim on our glass. One nice shot of tequila. Some of our Q grapefruit soda. I'm just going to give that a stir. And we've got an excellent start to the meal. So what we're going to start off with is preparing the dessert first so that it's ready come the time of finishing dinner. We're going to make what is a classic pâté choux dough, something you can make at home with ease. It's a French classic. So when we're learning this, we want to learn the classics first, we want to master them, and then we can improvise and do some interesting things. So to make this classic pâté choux dough, we're going to start off with some water in our sauce pot here, 1 tablespoon of heavy cream, and a pinch of salt. We're going to bring this over to the stove top and get it hot. So we've gone ahead and added 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter to this, and we've got it over a low to medium flame. We just want to get this warm, we don't want to reduce it all. And we have right next to this our 1/2 cup of flour that we're going to add. So as you can see, our butter's now melted, and we're starting to scald that milk. We're going to add our 1/2 cup of flour in. We're going to bring this together into a dough, just using a simple rubber spatula, high temperature rubber spatula. Nothing that's going to melt while cooking. And a dough comes together pretty quickly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cook this for just 2 or 3 minutes over the same heat, right around medium heat. We want to make sure that a film is going to start to develop on the pot even while we're scraping it away. We're going to cook just a bit of the starchiness out of that flour when we do this. But pâté choux is what is used to make cream puffs, eclairs, lots of classic French desserts. It's actually very easy to make once you learn the recipe and what's the important steps to how it's made. And then you can improvise. If you like a raspberry filling, you do raspberry filling. You like chocolate, obviously very, very classic. You do a vanilla custard with some chocolate. We're doing something a little bit more interesting and different today. We're actually going to make what is already prepared in your box is a yuzu pastry cream. So yuzu is a Japanese citrus fruit, and you'd say it has a touch of bitterness like grapefruit, the floralness of Meyer lemon, and the searing acidity of a key lime. So it's a very, very interesting, and it even has a touch of aroma or taste of pineapple. So if you don't like any of those things, it's probably not for you, but in the summertime heat, citrus is one of those things that just goes over so well. So as we see, we've got this light film on the bottom of the pot. That means we've cooked some of the starch out of that flour, and we're going to bring this aside. So at this point, now that we have our dough cooked and we've cooked to that point of releasing some of the starch of the flour, we're just going to continue to stir this. And we want it to cool down just a touch before we add our eggs. The ideal temperature would be somewhere between 90 and 105 degrees we want this dough temperature to be. So a small amount of dough, it'll cool down pretty quickly. We're going to just stir it and kind of work the dough a bit before we start adding eggs. All right, and that's about good. So now we'll crack our egg in. And this is one of the most important things when making pâte choux pastry dough. We have to work that egg in completely. This dough should still be very stiff and firm after we get this egg all the way worked in. So you're going to have to stir very vigorously. And as we see it tighten up there from getting those eggs worked in, that egg, we cannot add the second egg until that first one is fully absorbed into the dough. And this is where pâte choux can go very wrong very quickly. Got to make sure that egg is worked in, and we're back to that ball of dough. Okay, add our second egg. And same thing. Just got to keep working this until that dough tightens back up. If you had, let's say, a beautiful little KitchenAid stand mixer, it is definitely made easier in that. You would use the paddle attachment, and you'd be done with this quite a bit sooner. Not everyone has that luxury, and pretty classically, just a wooden spoon would get the job done very efficiently. Little elbow grease. There we go. And now we've got our choux dough ready to go. So our next step, we're going to move our parchment paper. We've gone ahead and traced out circles. I think these are the ideal size for a beautiful little cream puff like we're going to make, 1.5 inches. Okay, so we've got our little circles there. We sprayed a little non-stick spray. We're going to take our disposable pastry bag here and load it up. These are very, very handy. If you didn't have a disposable and had a normal pastry bag, that would be fine to use, of course. And, you know, in times of emergencies, you can just use a Ziploc bag, of course. So I poked a little hole in the end so we can press some of that air out as we work the dough down. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off about 1/2 inch as far as the width. We're going to pipe just hold about 3/4 inch high and fill that circle. If you had a macaroon mat at home, you probably have some pre-traced circles on those that would work just the same, and that'd be just fine. We're going to stay in the center and pull right up from the center. And of course, we're not going to cook them like that. We're going to make sure we press those down and brush this with just a touch of egg. The egg's going to help the browning. And if we were to bake these straight away, those tips would be burnt to a crisp. We're going to be cooking these today at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. If you did have a convection oven, you'd be operating that without the fan. Now I know we said this is a beautiful little dinner for two, and I'm sure you can count. We do have 12 cream puffs we're making right here. We can either fill them all and enjoy. We can reserve the cooked shells for tomorrow. You can toast them in the morning, a little peanut butter, little jam, perfect little breakfast with a cup of coffee. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to crack an egg. Whisk that up just with a simple fork. Now at this point in time, if you had a pastry brush, that'd be great. Little pastry brush, do this just fine. If you didn't have a pastry brush, nothing wrong with getting in there. We press that tip down, get a little bit of that egg on the outside. Tip down, little brush of egg. So in this dough, as you noticed, eggs are our only leavener, okay? So they're going to do all the work for us. But one of the other reasons I absolutely love cream puffs like this is we can really be in control of the amount of sugar. As you see, there is not a bit of sugar that has gone into this yet, and that's very much a positive if you're trying to watch your sugar intake. Now to make these extra good, what we've got here is a little bit called turbinado sugar, sugar in the raw cane sugar, right? Kind of coarse golden brown crystals, okay? And what we're going to do is sprinkle just a bit of that over the top of these. And when it cooks, that's going to give just a beautiful golden brown caramelization, nice coloring. So I know I said we haven't added sugar yet. We're doing it now. You can control this. You can omit this. That would be just fine. I just think it gives that nice color, gives you a little bit more crunch on the top of that cream puff. Nice little addition. But obviously it's an egg-rich dough. It's going to cook up very airy. It's going to eat very light, so you have that nice sweet satisfaction. Now we're going to take these over to the oven, 400 degrees, 10 minutes. So next up, we're going to start working on the entree now, and the thing that cooks the longest for that entree. We're doing a take on salmon and lentils, a very traditional French dish. So we're going to start cooking our lentils now. And what we have scaled out and prepared for you, we have some diced pancetta. Pancetta is very much an Italian bacon. It's cured, not smoked, so it's a little bit lighter in flavor, but very fantastic, and usually has some black pepper influence. Very, very nice there. We've got our French green organic lentils. These are going to have a little bit more firmness than many lentils you might be accustomed to. We have some beautiful house-made vegetable stock. We'll be cooking those in. Here we've got some red pepper flakes as well as some herbes de Provence. And that is a dried herb blend of things from the provincial region in France. Fantastic flavor that's going to lend us. We're going to cook that up with some aromatic vegetables. We've got some onion, celery, carrot, leek, and garlic. And of course some kosher salt and some butter. Let's head to the stove. So first off, we're going to render a lot of that fat out of that pancetta and get it nice and crispy. So we're going to add just about a tablespoon of olive oil into our pot here. And we're going to add our pancetta, and we're going to start browning. Now, if you didn't have access to pancetta, which I presume you can find behind many deli counters, you could use bacon, would be an absolutely fine substitute. It doesn't necessarily even have to be thick cut. If you had a little bit of prosciutto, some shaved prosciutto would be beautiful in this. Even if you had some high quality American smoked ham, that'd be great. You know, any of these ham products are just going to add that touch of fat. It's going to go very, very nicely with the lentils as well as the fish. So at this point, when we're cooking the pancetta or the bacon or the ham or the prosciutto or whatever we've got in there, we're starting to determine a lot of the flavor profile, okay? We want these to be nice and a good, firm golden brown. Otherwise, they're going to eat very chewy because of the fat that's in there. We want to cook these nice and hard into little pork croutons, if you will. Of course, if you didn't want any pork products in here, you could leave it out and that would be just fine. But it definitely adds a certain depth of flavor. And we are there. Beautiful golden brown. We're going to set those aside. We're now going to add to this our aromatics, all of our vegetables, onions, celery, carrot, leeks, and garlic. And of course the pan was hot when we were searing that pancetta. We dropped our heat just a touch We don't want to color our vegetables. We want to sweat them. We want to make sure we get that nice soft background flavor. If we were to cook these more aggressively, they would be a much more dominant flavor in what we're making here, this lentil ragu. Whenever we add vegetables like that, we're going to add a pinch of salt, a few turns of fresh black pepper. That salt's going to help draw out and soften those vegetables just a little bit faster for us. So at this point, our vegetables are just softened, sweated. We're going to go ahead and add our lentils. Stir that around just a touch. We're going to add our flavoring, our herbes de Provence and our red pepper flakes. And we're going to add our vegetable stock. Solid 2 cups there. Give that a little stir. We're going to let this come up to a simmer. Right now we want to make sure that stock is nicely flavored because that's what's going to soak into our lentils. We hit that with a little more salt. A few more turns of black pepper. We're going to come back to this once it comes up to a simmer. So 10 minutes have passed on our cream puffs. We're going to open this up. We're going to turn them. We always want to rotate halfway through baking. So that was the first 10 minutes. We just turned them from left to right. Dead center of the oven, they're baking. Looking great. We're going to set it for another 10 minutes. So right now our lentils are just coming up to a boil, and how we cook them is very, very important. That's why we've got in this beautiful little sauce pot, something a little bit higher sides. If we were going into something with more surface area, it would cook very, very quickly. If we were to leave this on high heat, we could cook all that liquid out, the lentils wouldn't be done yet. So we want to reduce this heat and bring this down to just a very gentle simmer. Simmer is where you see the little bubbles and action across the top. And we want these to let that flavorful stock really cook and soak in and flavor those lentils with everything else we have, those aromatic vegetables, the herbes de Provence, and obviously the fat and grease from that pancetta that's going to help flavor these quite a bit. So we're going to let these cook. These will take about 15 minutes. We'll come back to them shortly. So next up, we're going to make a little fresh salad dressing to go with the salad with that salmon and lentil dish. So we're going to make what is essentially a lemon creme fraiche vinaigrette. So we got some beautiful fresh lemons. There's nothing better than freshly squeezed lemon juice. We're going to get started. We've got scaled out our creme fraiche, a little chopped parsley, some good extra virgin olive oil, kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper are on the deck. We're going to need just the juice of half a lemon. And I highly encourage the learning of how to make a proper salad dressing like this, a vinaigrette. The creme fraiche is going to act as an emulsifier here, and there's just no need to buy bottled dressings at all. You can, with good quality vinegars, good quality olive oils, make anything that you want. We're going to add our creme fraiche, and we're going to whisk that together until it's nice and smooth. Now, just making salad dressing for 2, we don't need a whole lot of dressing. We only need, 2 to 3 ounces. So we've got 3 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil. Now, classically, to make a vinaigrette, we've got this base, and then we're going to emulsify in the oil. So the creme fraiche really helps us do that to keep this nice and homogenized and smooth. So we're going to add just a pinch and whisk that in. And once all that oil is worked into our base, we're going to add just a little bit more. And we're going to keep whisking. So this is to make a nice smooth salad dressing. Going to coat all the leaves of those beautiful local lettuces very nicely. If you want to just do lemon juice and extra virgin olive oil, you can absolutely do that. The emulsified dressings help carry the flavor we're putting into them across and throughout the whole salad. I think they offer a better quality product at the end. But making a emulsified vinaigrette is one of those classic abilities. And once you learn how to do this, if you wanted to change from lemon juice to white wine vinegar, that would be just fine. If you wanted to put Dijon mustard instead of creme fraiche, that'd be just fine. The ability to make a vinaigrette never ends. You know, you could substitute oranges. You could change out different vinegars, different types of oils, but good quality extra virgin olive oil, always a must. Just make sure you go slowly. Keep that nice and emulsified. And there we go, we got a nice emulsified lemon creme fraiche vinaigrette. We're going to season this with just a little bit of chopped parsley, pinch of kosher salt, a few turns of freshly cracked black pepper. Whisk those in. Most important thing always, keep a lot of spoons nearby so we can give it a taste. Delightful, fresh, refreshing. Going to be great on our salad. So for the salad, we have prepared for you. We've got some fresh local greens, nice mixture. And for this, if you wanted to, let's say, make this salad and have this as a precursor, right? We have the appetizer, make a plated salad course, follow with the salmon and lentils. That would be just fine. We're actually serving them on the same plate together today. Kind of mimic a nice al fresco dining, sitting out on the porch or deck. Nice light seafood dinner. So to this we're going to add some of our washed, beautiful local baby greens. We've got here some baby French beans that have already been blanched, nicely salted water, cooked al dente, and then some cooked and sliced fingerling potatoes. We've got some nice reds, some yellows, very, very nice. We're just going to give this a light toss. And our salad will now be ready for the entree. 20 minutes have now passed. That second 10-minute cooking time. As you see, the coloring from that raw cane sugar, nice and golden brown, nice puffy little cream puffs. We're going to let these cool. These are going to be ready for us once we finish preparing dinner and can assemble dessert. All right. So this is that point where it can get a little hectic in the kitchen. We have our lentils on and simmering. We're going to start the reduction for our Beurre Rouge sauce. So Beurre Rouge sauce is a red wine butter sauce, traditional French. Again, it could be made with white wine. At that point, it'd be called a Beurre Blanc. We just want to do something a little bit different, but again, teach this technique because once you learn how to make a proper butter sauce, you'll be able to make it and change it up. You could do red wine, you could do white wine, you can do lemon juice, you can do many different things. But once we start this process, we're then going to have our lentils cooking, our sauce reducing, and we're very close to starting to cook our salmon, and we have multiple things going on at the same time when it gets a little hectic in the kitchen. So take a deep breath, just be prepared, nothing to worry about. So here we've got a combination of red wine, port wine, balsamic vinegar, red wine vinegar. We also have some herbes de Provence and some freshly ground black pepper already in here. So we're going to add this to our saute pan to start reducing. We're going to add to this some minced shallots and 1 tablespoon of heavy cream. Now that heavy cream, again, going to be our best friend in being able to make a proper butter sauce. It's going to help hold everything together while we toss the salad and bring that to the plate, finish off our lentils, finish cooking our salmon. It's just going to help us through this process. So we start off over high heat. We would just want to bring this to a boil, and much like the lentils, then reduce it down to a simmer, and we're going to reduce this by half. Now when we're reducing it by half, we're evaporating off water, essentially concentrating flavor. So red wine, some acid, port wine, some sugar, and lots of depth of flavor. And then we have our 2 vinegars in there. That acid is really the backbone of this sauce, where we cook the water out of it, make this strong, potent reduction, and then whisk in butter that's going to give it that richness and really, really balance the sauce. Goes beautifully with salmon and lentils. So here we've come to a boil now. We're going to reduce that heat just down to a simmer. We're actually going to slide this over because we're going to getting ready to prepare our salmon. Lentils cooking beautifully. Beurre rouge over a soft flame, just gently reducing. Let's head back and grab our fish. So, in your beautiful pack here, we've gotten this cooler pack. I'm going to cut open. Two beautiful pieces of farm-raised Atlantic salmon. This is where we begin to see some of those points of differentiation. We see the white is the fat of the fish, beautiful marbling, going to be very rich. We see that profile. We've cut this straight across, what would be called pave style, get that nice thickness. Now how we're going to cook this, we're going to give it a nice golden brown pan sear, get some nice color on the top, flip it over, cook it a little bit more, and then we'll do a nice gentle butter baste with a wedge of lemon. And our goal here is to cook it to just past medium, about 135 degrees internal temperature, and it will be crunchy on the outside, rich developed flavor, but also absolutely melt in your mouth. So here we've got our lentils. They've beautifully simmered down. The stock is coming just below the top of the line, and what we're going to do now is turn that off. And because we didn't soak them, we want them to kind of sit and just soak up the last of that flavorful stock. After a few minutes, while we finish cooking our salmon, start and finish cooking our salmon and make our beurre blanc, we're going to fold in that crispy pancetta, a little chopped parsley, and butter to the lentils there. Our reduction here has come down. We've reduced that by half. That is nice and hot. And after we cook our salmon, we're going to be ready to make our sauce and bring this beautiful restaurant quality dish together at home. So to cook our salmon, saute pan, tablespoon and a half of good olive oil, and we're going to take our fish. We're going to season this aggressively. We see how thick that is. We want that salt crust to penetrate nicely. Seasoning is going to make the difference every single time on the quality of food that you have. If I had to advise anyone at home how to cook just that little bit better, a little bit more salt, a little bit more butter, nothing to be afraid of. We're not eating like this all 7 days out of the week. We're going to flip these over. More salt. More pepper. All right, and these are going to be ready to go into the pan. So what we're waiting for right now is for the oil to reach a smoking point. We want it to be hot enough to be able to sear this beautiful piece of fish and get that golden brown color. All oils are going to have a smoking point. So this olive oil is going to be slightly lower. So it's always nice to add maybe just a touch of vegetable oil, canola oil. Grapeseed oil would be ideal and perfect. Very, very high smoke temp. And as we see right here, we've got a high enough heat. We've achieved that smoking point. We're going to lay our fish in. Very important, we're going to lay the fish away from us so as to not splash ourselves with oil. We hear that sizzle. Love that noise. And we're going to leave these cooking on that side for about 90 seconds until we get a nice golden brown crust. There we are, beautiful golden brown. So now we're going to cook these for about another 90 seconds on the bottom side there. And then we're very quickly going to start our lemon and brown butter baste. So 90 seconds have passed. We're done searing on the bottom side. We're going to turn the heat off. We're going to carefully add 2 tablespoons of butter. Get a nice wedge of lemon in there. And start basting. So what we're doing now, that butter is going to melt. The milk that's in the butter is going to essentially reduce and toast, giving us this nice brown foam, the richness of that butter. And we're just going to spoon that over. And what that's going to do is going to bring up the temperature of the salmon all the way through. We've got that beautiful hard sear, developed a ton of flavor, and now we're going to make sure it cooks through to the center at the same temperature and time, so it isn't, say, raw in the center and rock hard cooked on the outside. This is going to give us a nice even cook. A little bit of lemon's going to lend that nice flavor to it. All right, they are nice and basted. We're going to let these rest while we prepare our beurre rouge sauce now. So our lentils have sat and soaked up all that delicious stock. We're going to add our butter, our parsley, and our pancetta back to it. And just stir that in. Let the heat melt that butter. It'll nicely glaze those lentils. And that is delightful and ready. As far as our beurre rouge now, last component for dinner. We're going to bring that flame very, very low. We've got our red wine reduction here. We've got our last 3 tablespoons of butter. Now what we're going to do, just like making that vinaigrette, we're going to stir this butter in there, make sure it's nice and emulsified before we add more. So we're just going to heat this up. If the flame was too high, the butter would melt too rapidly, and we would just have a broken, ugly sauce. We want something nice, very violet hued, beautiful. So we don't want the heat too high. The butter itself is going to melt somewhere between 90 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit, so it doesn't take much. It's not going to be a hot, boiled, reduced sauce at all. Here we got all of our first cube of butter incorporated. We add some more, and we keep stirring. Last tablespoon of butter. Obviously we got a little more sauce in the pan now. Goes a little bit easier. Again, still over low heat, just trying to get that butter melted and keep it emulsified. The shaking helps, the stirring helps. And we've got our beurre rouge sauce ready. Beautiful. So now we have everything prepared. Final thing before we eat, serve, etc. Make sure we taste each component. Make sure it's seasoned exactly how we want it. Perfectly al dente, just the right amount of seasoning. It is spot on. I taste the herbs, Taste that touch of chili flake, brings just the right amount of heat. That's perfect. Our Bear Rouge sauce. Just a pinch of salt here. All right, now we're ready to assemble our beautiful entree plate. So on some nice china here, we're going to take our lentil ragu and just make a little bit of a bed for those pieces of salmon on just one side. Make sure you get a little bit of the pancetta in there. On top of that, we're going to place our salmon, perfectly cooked. Alongside that, we've got our little bit of local baby greens, if you remember, our lemon creme fraiche vinaigrette, nice little French green beans, haricots verts, those beautiful fingerling potatoes. Make sure we get a little bit of everything onto each plate. And again, this is just perfect al fresco dining. Not sacrificing on flavor, eats very light, still very rich. Fantastic. Perfect. Now we take our Bear Rouge sauce. Just a drizzle around the plate. And enjoy. We've paired this with our Terra d'Oro Rosé. Beautiful rosé is going to pair perfectly with this. Hot summertime temperatures, salmon. It's going to have a little more substance and body than a crisp white wine. And it will actually pair deliciously with our dessert as well. Let's see how we did on our salmon. Perfectly cooked. Absolutely amazing. So we've got this beautiful golden brown crust, that soft salmon color on the inside. That is perfectly cooked salmon. If this piece was any thinner, it would have been much more difficult to achieve, but we've got our nice green salad, our lentils, our perfectly cooked piece of salmon, beautiful little Bear Rouge. Perfect. So now it's time for dessert. The best part of the meal, of course, right? We save the best for last. We've got our beautifully prepared cream puffs. Those are still empty. We're going to see how we did on the preparation of those. So we're going to take a serrated knife, just cut this through the center, and as we see, perfectly hollow. So again, a lot of air, not this big, overly sweet dessert. Again, light, nice light eating. We're going to take a little bit of our yuzu pastry cream, just 1 tablespoon into the bottom. Again, has high acidity, very nice and tart. So think of this as a Asian key lime pie, lemon meringue cream puff, something along those lines, right? We've got 2 tablespoons then of our vanilla bean whipped cream. Almost forgot. We've got some finely grated dark chocolate, and that's going to play with that citrus very, very nicely. And we've got beautiful little cream puffs. And just finish off with a dusting of powdered sugar, and you've got a beautiful yuzu cream puff. So as you can see, we brought some new techniques that hopefully you learned something, the making of the vinaigrette, the making of the butter sauce, the making of the cream puff, the pâté choux dough. And these things, very simple. Once you learn the concepts, you could do this for a beautiful little dinner for two at the house with your significant other. You could scale up these recipes and entertain out on your porch. As we see, summertime, it's the time to be outside on the deck eating nice, light, flavorful food. So I hope you enjoy.